Peace and blessings. This is Misael Bay, aka Warlock Asylum, and today we're going to talk about the subject of Moorish science and the word black. And we're going to get down to the meaning of it and how it's not really a bad word uh, in Moorish science and what Moorish science really is based on that, because that terminology is a gateway. And a lot of people can't figure it out because they're not educated, they're not trained. And in this discussion, we're also talking about canceling out the Moorish buffoonery, and research and everything like that, because there's a lot of things that discredits, the work of modern day Moorish scientists due to the ignorance and the stupidity of quite a few people. Personally, people wonder what my stake in all of this is because I'm a shaman, and shamanism uh, actually gave birth to more science. You know what I'm saying? So and that's another discussion because why I'm phrasing it that way. A lot of people say, "Oh man, the Moors gave birth to everything." Okay, Columbus discovered America. Same situation. You know what I'm saying? And we'll talk about that. I was a little bit annoyed because on my Facebook page, I would like to thank everybody for the support. With the videos, I've been getting hit up by a lot of people from different schools of thought, Afrocentristic thought or whatever, and um, and that's good, and just people in general. However, recently I noticed like a lot of bays and ills have been coming on the page or whatever, and recently I got tagged with something about this scientist Nikola Tesla being a Moor, and right away I knew this was just nonsense. This was just dissemination of nonsense. Nikola Tesla was a very progressive individual as far as science was concerned. I give him credit with that. However, just because someone is progressive in some things doesn't always make them uh, part of the Moorish side of the family, in lack of a better term. The human family is one family, so any of its variations, more should be given credence and credit to. You know, we know that the Moors placed their stamp all over the world. However, give credit where credit is due. You know what I'm saying? I see this picture, I can see the Photoshop manipulation because I used to deal with Photoshop. You know what I'm saying? I'm a musician, and at one time I couldn't really pay out for someone to do the artwork, or they didn't do the artwork the way I wanted it to, so I learned Photoshop, you know. And so I could look at something and be like, that's Photoshop. So if you one of them people who seen the Nikola Tesla picture and someone saying it's a Moor because he has slightly frizzy hair and stuff like that, that's a Photoshop picture. And the whole thing is stupid. You know what I'm saying? You could look in to see who Nikola Tesla's mother was. You could look and see who his father was. And the dude, like he was born, like maybe 30, 40 years before the Beatles. So it's not like it's something that's shrouded in mystery. You know what I'm saying? We dealing with industrial age, so there's recordings of him, tapes of him, pictures of him, and then you always got these people online with these niggardly responses. Oh man, they lied again. They lie about everything. This stupid stuff to get you frustrated, and it's stuff that's being disseminated by other people and other forces to clown the groups out. You know what I'm saying? Stop following that stuff. You know what I'm saying? You should be confident enough as an individual and a person. If you really confident, is who you are as an individual, you don't need to have everyone around you look like you to affirm who you are, or to not, to take it to a level of just narcissism. You know what I'm saying? There's a big lesson in the lesson of Narcissus. You know what I'm saying? Narcissus was a dude who kept looking at himself. That's actually, if you want to know the closest history of Moorish people in America or why they got here or, the situation as it is, you know what I'm saying, trying to uplift fallen humanity. It's really a situation of trying to get dude to stop staring at himself in front of a lake of water. That's all it is. You know what I'm saying? If you look at the degradation of melanated people, it's only been during the time period that they're trying to justify all their stuff that they've done by false means and not continue serving humanity. That's the problem. You know what I'm saying? Oh man, we did this. Just shut up, man. You're only as good as your last album. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion, there's a lot of things, and initially those type of discussions were good because, especially when people were browbeaten, to show them the possibility of what's obtainable, you know. However, when it gets to a point where you hate what people who don't look like you achieved, then it's just narcissism. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not afraid to say it because I know what I've achieved as an individual, and I know what my people have achieved. I know what my physical family has achieved. I know what my father has achieved. You know what I'm saying? So I don't need to have all these adjectives and stuff like that. I got enough adjectives with my pseudonym and my name, and I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to have everyone around me, looking like me, and then to show, and for what is it? To be a big dick Moore? You know what I'm saying? To walk around as the big dick Moore. He's the big dick Moore. He has all this information and knowledge. It's foolishness. You know what I'm saying? It's just a whole bunch of foolishness. And you have a lot of people who are working against it, a lot of people who know, the differences, but you know, like to me, that just shows how disadvantaged people are. You in the workplace, you don't hear people like, well, Italians did this and Italians did that and Italians did this or all this kind of stuff. They just have it in their history and they know it for themselves and they talk about it in their writings, whether you believe it or not. However, they're not going to get on, like a public forum and talk about it in a way that invalidates everyone else. You see what I'm saying? What they had to offer. And if you follow that suit, see, this is what I don't understand. You have a lot of people who feel that they've been victimized in the United States. Then you want to turn around and display the same behavior towards other people and call someone else a devil when you're following the devil. You see what I'm saying? And this is what we're going to talk about, today, like what actually is Moorish science and some of the mysteries that, in shamanism unveiled in the 101, the 101 questions, Moorish science, and whatever you want to call it. As far as I'm concerned, I came through initiation through Mesopotamia. I was initiated in Mesopotamia. That's a pretty strong rite. You know what I'm saying? That's an original rite. So, like, as far as, Egypt is concerned, that's cool. Egypt is fine. That's also another great kingdom. You know what I'm saying? In shamanism, however, you learn that these kingdoms were not separate from each other. The pantheons were never separated from each other. They were all part of one pantheon. It's just that as you move through the earth, the longitude, the latitude of the light from the seven stars of the Big Dipper changes. And that's, scientifically sound. As the light changes, the vibration of the light changes, the sound changes. So the seven uh, deity pantheon, the enunciation of the names of the same energies would change as you would go throughout the course of the earth. It wasn't different, it would change. If you see a crucifix in Brazil and you see a crucifix in China, you'd be like, oh man, there was some Christians here. So if you see the seven pantheons of heavenly gods and nine underworld gods going across in America all the way to Samaria, Egypt, and other places, then you're gonna be like, wow, some of the same people were here. And depending on certain aspects and stuff, it may have morphed from there. You know what I'm saying? But not to digress too much, I just had a lot of stuff to say. I haven't been on the computer as much. Sometimes I just take a break because, man, that social media thing is a monster and it's a drug. Social media is a drug, and you could see You should start studying, as a Moorish scientist, the effect that has been placed upon civilization since social media and entertainment industry has been induced. I'm gonna tell you one experience before we get into the Black is Death topic. A lot of times, in my work, I've met up with a lot of jinn, genie or whatever, and those things. It is just as far it's just a form of communication between you and the invisible order that you're part of. I'm not going to get all crazy about it because you can have those communications. It's not necessarily a sign of your spiritual cultivation inwardly. I mean, in this case, definitely there's certain things that they won't allow in their communities or whatever if you interact with them. I'm just saying not to get too stuck in phenomenalism. If if you come across a jinn in your work, make a long story short, um, basically what I was told is like a lot of times when you look at the music world, the industry and entertainment and television, people are beasting for a new song every 3 months. That's like a drug. You know what I'm saying? That's not natural. People before that time, they played the same songs for like 10 years, maybe a couple of centuries. It was like a community song or something. Now, all of a sudden, you need to hear something new every 2 or 3 months. That's like, man, what are you doing to the human psyche? You know what I'm saying? To the human mind. So let's talk about more science and let's talk about one of the questions in the Quran questions of the Moorish Americans. Now, what's interesting here, and I can say this as a shaman who was reared in Mesopotamia. I mean, I've learned other, I picked up other degrees, was initiated in other systems. A lot of people know me to talk about Shinto, the Japanese system, which plays a deep part in Moorish science. I probably have to do another video on that. But right now, most Moorish Americans are familiar with the question. However, they may not understand the breakdown of this question. And this is question 87. What is meant by the word black? Black, according to science, means death. Wow. And that's question 87. Why is that important? Why is it the 87th question? Well, from a shamanic perspective, you know what I'm saying? I was reared initially into the rites of Inanna, later became known as Ishtar. Okay, Ishtar's sacred number is 5, and because she went through a trilogy of the underworld, the heavenly world, and the land of living, her number is also known as 15, probably known as 15. Now, what's interesting about that is Ishtar's symbol was an 8-pointed star, right? And she went through 7 gates. So to look at the number 87, you know what I'm saying? And, the only people who wear 8-pointed star at this point in time with a 7 on it are members of the nation of gods and earths who are commonly known as 5 percenters, which is another sacred number to the goddess Ishtar. But here's the thing that's important, because I'm not trying to say these dudes of revering Ishtar, but genetically, the DNA carries that. And here's the thing about that: if you go into Ifa, you go into West Africa, right? There was a legend of a goddess named Oshun, who's also a Venusian goddess, a morph of the light, the same light that shines in Mesopotamia now shines, or always has shine in West Africa. So they're going to pronounce it different. They call her Oshun. And Oshun's color is yellow. But when you look behind the legend, it says Oshun's color used to be white, which is the color of Ishtar. You see, I got white on, right? Women wear white at the wedding. You know what I'm saying? And it's for the same reasons. You can go on Wikipedia and they talk about Queen Elizabeth all they want to, but I got documents dating back to 3000 BC that talk about a wedding between Anana and Damuzi, and her wearing a white dress. So, it's been going on for a minute. Not to digress, let me get back into the deal. So anyway, we go into West Africa, talk about Oshun. Her dress is yellow. But the reason why it's yellow, it used to be white, but she had to keep washing it to cleanse it. She was prostituting herself, and for that reason, her children was taken away. So where they was taken away to, into this world. So we looking at this question 87. You know what I'm saying? And it's telling you the same story. It says that what is meant by the word black. Black, according to science, means death. Okay, now that's 15. That's 8 and 7. We mentioned that Ishtar wears the 8-pointed star and walked through the 7 gates, okay, of the underworld, and that's how she gained her divinity. And not only Ishtar, every single deity walked through the 7 gates of the underworld. All the deities visited the underworld. Enki, Enlil, Marduk, all of them. Shamash, the sun god, visits it every day because it's believed that when he wasn't shining in the heavens, he was in the underworld. Okay, the underworld is not actually a negative place; it's a necessary place. If you look at the lower part of yourself, it's a necessary place. You see what I'm saying? You need to reproduce. Where does it happen? In the underworld. Everything below the waist. You need to get rid of waste. Where does it happen? In the underworld. So the ancient ones knew that man was a microcosm of the macrocosm. However, they knew that life was produced through the merging of the underworld, right? However, you don't want to get caught in the anus side of it. You see what I'm saying? So there existed the waters of life in the underworld. This is, the underworld, and nowadays is referred to as the streets. You see what I'm saying? The idea wasn't to stay there, but a lot of initiations came in. If you look at society today, everything that we love and revere in America, a lot of it came out of the streets, the underworld. And so the underworld has a place, as everything else. It's just the idea is to be able to not become addicted to it because it will tear you down. When the gods were going through the underworld, the deities were going through the underworld, it was to strip away the impurities of themselves and allow the spirit to be raised up. Okay, this is a process. Okay, now a lot of times when you look at like phenomena of like black folk, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna say it for what it is, or melanated people, Moorish people, however you want to perceive it. A lot of times that word death always hangs around them. However, if you look in a book, it's a book called, oh man, it escapes my memory right now, but I'm gonna get back into it. It's very vital. Oh, it's called Spiritism and the Cult of the Dead. It's written by a man, I think it was a brother too, named Peyton, Paton. He's a PhD. It's the only one of 2 books on this subject. The Cult of the Dead is basically ancestor worship. And from his studies, you can see that every religion, from Buddhism to Taoism to everything, revolved around the cult of the dead, and only really melanated people were allowed to go into certain sections of that science. You know what I'm saying? And this was known to the world. So a lot of times people like, oh man, they trying to call us dead. No, you the only dudes that could naturally perform necromancy. If you don't believe me, look at the dynamics of the world today, right? You see, like some people in church, right? They're Christians, melanated people. Oh, they're black Christians. The black Christian church is used as a political term, right? Okay, but to put the adjective in front of it is because people don't believe it's the natural way for that thing. That's why the adjective is put in front of it. Okay, so now you look at, like, let's say, the Judaic religion. A melanated person going into a synagogue. I've been to synagogues, you know what I'm saying? I've been to synagogues in Manhattan, everything like that or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Now people, you look around and they say this person accepts this religion, this melanated person, this Moorish person accepts this religion. What are they known as? A black Jew. They're not known as a Jew, they're known as a black Jew. And even though a lot of these religions and stuff um, may have a history with melanated people, that's just what it is. Okay. I'm trying to show you a point. Same thing in the communities of Islamism. You go around there and, you got a couple of people, a couple of groups like, trying to illustrate that this started off with melanated folk and they call them black Muslims, right? Here's the difference. You go into Louisiana or New Orleans and you become a voodoo practitioner, no one says you're a voodoo practitioner because it's naturally associated with your way. There's a history of people of color who practice voodoo known throughout the world, right? Known throughout the world of spiritism because as a race of people, we were the only ones who mastered the science of necromancy. That's it. You see what I'm saying? So now, when you look at this degree, 87, remember Ishtar wore an 8-pointed star and walked through 7 gates of the underworld, and her number was 15. You could pick up a book that a lot of people have been starting to use called the Necronomicon, and you could look on the Ishtar and it would tell you that her sign, her number is 15. That's not anything uncommonly known. All right. So now, and it's interesting because her symbol was an 8-pointed star and she walked through 7 gates. Now we're looking at question 87, right? And it says, what does the word what is meant by the word black? Black, according to science, means death. Okay. So, okay, so that's what it's saying. But it seems as if there's some correlation involved in that. I'm gonna get into that in a second. Now, let's get to this. Where can we find in science that black means death? And a lot of times you gotta be careful because we're not talking about academic science. We're talking about another science, and that science I had marked in an article, which I'll probably put in a link in the description of this video. Okay. And we know that Noble Drew Ali, he was associated a lot in his origins with the Cherokee Nation. I don't know if one of his parents was Cherokee, he was adopted by, the Cherokee Nation. There's a lot of stories around it, but definitely something in his origin as a youth, the Cherokee Nation was involved. Here's what's interesting. The only reference that I can find that's scientific that talks about black meaning death according to science is found in a book called The Sacred Formula of the Cherokees by James Mooney. And this book is free online. You can find it a PDF or whatever. And in the book, this is what it says. It says, thus the red man living in the east is the spirit of power, triumph, and success, but the black man in the west is the spirit of death. The shaman therefore invokes the red man to the assistance of his client and consigns his enemy to the fatal influences of the black man. Okay, so that idea was draped in the color symbolism of the Cherokee Nation. That's where you can find where black means death. Okay. And that's not uncommon. That wasn't only amongst the Cherokees. That was a lot amongst all the shamanic sciences of the world because a black man, and they're not talking about copper tone people, was associated with the god of the netherworld. It's just that simple. You know what I'm saying? I can go through a lot of different myths and all this kind of stuff, but it existed long before colonialism and the slave trade. So don't take it personal. But if you want to take that title on, know that you're associating yourself with the God of the netherworld. Here's how it is, because a lot of people don't understand what that is. Now, the underworld is not a negative place. However, it's like, in some degree, if you're not aware of how you guide yourself through it, it could be like a cesspool of negative emotions. You know what I'm saying? And so, and that's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? And it does infer a transformation. However, once you start identifying yourself with it, then it gets a little bit twisted. You know what I'm saying? It's like someone saying who's melanated, I'm a Satanist. You know what I'm saying? Satan is not, is it like a trickster deity, in the Bible or whatever, for those who believe in that sort of thing. Um, but you may call attention, a certain type of attention to yourself by saying that. So when you say that, this is the message that it echoes amongst other nations. Now, in the video, the title of it is not a bad word. It's because it's when it's understood properly, it's also a part of life. Black, according to science, means death, right? So that's one thing. Now, when you read the Circle 7, there's a whole chapter about the mystery of death. And this is what it says. It says that death is no enemy of man. It is a friend who, when the work of life is done, just cuts the cord that binds the human boat to earth that it may sail on smoother seas. No language can describe a mother's. Okay, so that goes on into something else. But we can see that if black means death, according to science, what we find in Circle 7 is that death is not an enemy to man. Okay. So this is some of the things um, that I want to talk about today as far as the teachings are concerned, and that if these things can only be found in shamanism, then what is Moorish science really? You see what I'm saying? Maybe it's a tutor to shamanic thought. And here's just something to think about, because in one aspect, you know, the Moors are said to be descendants of the ancient Moabites. And I'll get into a discussion on that because I have the information on that. I have literary references that discuss that are outside the Moorish circle. And why those things are important, it's because when you talk to people and you telling them something, or you trying to get them to understand a certain school of thought, they may not have faith in your leader. So you need to use terms of agreement by other people who are outside that school of thought to show that these are valuable points. Or it may have been a way of thinking at one given time period. You know what I'm saying? For some people, the idea of Moors being Canaanites is too abstract. However, the Greeks and Romans wrote about it in the 3rd century BC. I have that information posted on the website. Okay. Not to digress, let's continue on. He says that the origin, noble duality of the Moors, the ancient Moabites, they were Canaanites. Okay. So one question a Moor may ask is like, hey man, why do Moors, because I don't really go into the realms of, calling certain deities that some Moors may do. But one question may come up is like, why are Moors not serving Canaanite deities? Why are they, serving this god Allah or whatever? That's a valid question. You know what I'm saying? My opinion, based on the way the 101 was written, even in some aspects, the Supreme Wisdom was written. If you look at ancient Mesopotamia and the numbers associated with the deities, it's pretty much spelled out, as we saw in question 87, right? Um, Evidently, he said that to study that area of the world. And the thing about it is, not too much knowledge was known about the land of Canaan at the time that the MSTA was beginning. It might have been 50 years in exploration before, I would say, the 1850s. You know, archaeologists didn't even believe Babylon existed, and then they found some relics, and everyone raced over there. Why did they race over to Mesopotamia? Was it to discover, wow, these things actually exist? No, it was actually to discover or to prove that the Bible was correct, right? And then they had to make some adjustments because they found the older language. Rawlinson was one of the anthropologists. They found an older language that we know now as Sumerian, right? So, you know, um, that's where we come from. So, in order for us to kind of, to take some of that heritage with us, we have to be aware of that and study those things. You know what I'm saying? And you know, this is a very important feature because there's no other bond that would gel us together until we get back into our original self. You know what I'm saying? And it can't be done through like convincing someone through an argument because that's just like false appearance. It's like putting on makeup. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you have this idea, and ideas, that's not the individual. You have to get to something. You have to go through the underworld. You have to get to the gut that just roots out your emotions with a strong enough ordeal and deal with certain ordeals to get to your true self. You just can't, you know, join an organization and just, say you down with something because you want camaraderie or maybe some sort of backup in case someone comes along and kicks your ass. You have to really, you know, dig down deep in yourself. And the only way to do that is through shamanism. And shamanism is actually only a first level in acquiring higher understanding. And a lot of times, our brothers, overseas who practice certain arts, they think that that art is pure when it's really profane. I'm gonna put it out on the line because it needs to be said because we need to make some progression. We don't need to keep going down Wall Street broke. You know what I'm saying? And these are some of the problems that we have to deal with. Some of us don't want to deal with it because they want everything to be Moorish and they build this world of illusions around themselves. Let me tell you something, man. You look at the Bible, right? I don't read the Bible like that. I've read it when I was coming up because, parents were into the Bible, so I had to read it. And it was an enjoyable read, you know what I'm saying? However, now I know what it is. You know what I'm saying? When you look at the Bible, the first person that tells the truth in the Bible is Satan. He tells the couple, you will not die, and your eyes will be open, and you'll be like God, knowing good and bad. And that's exactly what happened. He didn't lie, he didn't tell the truth. I mean, he told the truth. And the thing is, they accepted that truth without having a full scope of the world around them. And so, truth in itself, it could be told by anyone. That's not the truth that they're talking about in the principles that we learn. That's the true Moorish science and the true law. Shamanism is also a study of that law, but it's good to obtain a certain virtue as you're accumulating knowledge. And this is very important because it goes into what we see going on today. People, who claim the title of Moorish, all they're doing is just studying, actually, they're studying inverted Christianity, to be honest with you, because Black Law's Dictionary, that's the Christian Bible of the law system. You know what I'm saying? These dudes, hey, what are we studying this for? If you're a virtuous person, you will supersede any law You would, and that's how a lot of folks made it. You talk about Moors did this, more. How did Moors lose it? Because they wasn't virtuous. So no matter what you study, until you get back to the point of virtue, it ain't happening. You know what I'm saying? It ain't happening. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of good people, and I meet people who are into Moorish science who have virtue. It's like dealing with angels. You know what I'm saying? However, when you deal with people who like manipulate the science, it's like dealing with the Lord of another world himself. It's like some trickster stuff going on. You know, and it's just stupid. It doesn't even add up mathematically. You know what I'm saying? You're studying all these things about European court system and law, and it's good. You should know the laws about the land that you're living in. But what are you studying it for? Are you studying to teach others how to follow the law, or are you studying to obstruct justice? You know what I'm saying? And then, like, what I mean is unmathematical. You have these guys get together in groups, studying law to the point where they could probably, most of them qualify as attorneys, if not paralegals. You know what I'm saying? And then when you're talking about opening up a business, they want to open up a deli. And I'm like, are you that stupid? If you study in law this much, why don't you just go into the field of law? You could be making $100,000 a year, and you, but instead of doing that, you want to sit around, read some books, study Black's Law's Dictionary every night, and then talk to someone who's in your group about opening up a delicatessen. You got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. Like, how stupid can you be? Mathematically, whatever you put your time into is what you're cultivating. It should reward you, it should feed you. So if you're going to do that, just go into the legal system. Learn your history by understanding the history of all people. And that's some of the problems with Moorish groups today. Instead of like studying, the history of other people, how they overcame oppression. If you oppressed, then maybe you want to study how other people was. If you're not a boxer or a fighter, the first thing you do is you get in, you take up an art form. Maybe you may take up Aikido or some other art. And then you start studying the people who are more progressed in it. You start studying how did this person do this and do this, what was involved in their training, what type of mindset did they take, what type of things did they do. And as a group of people, you could do that while respecting other people. You see what I'm saying? When you see people go around and they talk about other people all the time, they're just miserable. That's not have anything to do with science. It's just misery. And misery is a quality of the underworld, the negative side of it, and nothing grows there. So people wonder, like, oh man, like the dude said in the comment, oh man, they lied to us again, and you lying to yourself. So you only going to get back what you put into life. Then you have to ask yourself, there's laws around life. There are laws around life. You see what I'm saying? And a lot of it revolves around what's in your subconscious mind. That's what experiences you draw to self. Now you're going to convince the whole world that you're so victimized that that's not the case with you. Okay, so study other people, some of their struggles if you want to get out of your situation. You know what I mean? And why I'm saying that is because let's take, for example, the Irish, right? Irish was abused people, very abused. A lot of them was involved in shackle slavery. And I used to hear rumors about this. I read the book. They were slaves and they were white. I know all about that. However, I'm big time into genealogy, and when you start seeing records of people coming from Ireland and they're slaves, then it's like when you actually the records and the census reports, it takes on a whole different meaning. You know what I'm saying? You're like, wow, this thing really happened or whatever. So I'm looking at all this stuff or whatever, and it's crazy, man, what the Irish went through. The Irish, the reason why cops carry pistols is because they couldn't cock their shotguns fast enough going into Irish neighborhoods. That's how bad it was. If you live in New York area, like New York City area, Delancey Street All them streets back there where they be having them lounges in the Lower East Side, every day you wake up, them streets were filled with bodies of Irish bucking off at each other. What you see with the Bloods and Crips and doing has nothing, would never have nothing of what as far as what the Irish was doing. And these dudes got smart. They were like, you know what? Because there was a big riot. It was happening in the 30s, and it was between Irish and African Americans. Why did I call them African Americans? Because they didn't claim they're not Moors. Come on, not everybody who's Moor is African American, and vice versa. So they had this big riot going on, and 10,000 people got injured. And the reason the riot happened is because you would see signs, no need, Irish, blacks can apply. So these dudes was like, man, the black people, they're taking all the jobs. They don't want to hire us. You see what I'm saying? And the crazy thing about that is in the 1800s, most of the Irish that lived in New York lived with black families. A lot of people don't know that. I'm going to come out with some articles on that. You know what I'm saying? They lived in the same houses. If a woman didn't have an Irish husband, she had an African American husband. Okay. These dudes got smart. They were like, look, man, we're not getting no jobs. Instead of killing each other, let's just join the police department. And that's what they did. They joined the police department. And now look, you see what I'm saying? They were able to better themselves and their community. So if you studying law like that, and you got to be stupid not to get money from that. You know how much lawyers make? And you studying law 24/7, and you just sitting around with a couple of people in the room talking about open up a delicatessen? Only a Negro could think like that. You know what I'm saying? Go out there, get your money, and help your people. You know what I'm saying? You got to do what you got to do for the time. You know what I'm saying? These people celebrate everything. A hustler, yeah, man, I had to get that money. A pimp, all that kind of stuff. Then, as a person who's studying high science, quote unquote, then why not take yourself and get your people together and join the legal team? Open up your own law firm or something. You know what I'm saying? Become noted for that. You know what I'm saying? All these people who are not Anglo Saxons who live in America had a rough time coming into there. There's enough examples to teach modern day melanated people how to uprise. But if you go around spewing hate on people who ain't really involved in your situation, and because even in the Circle 7, it says that a Moor should be a friend to mankind. It's not for you to go around acting ignorant and saying all this stuff like, oh man, they lied again. Like, it ain't all about that. You know what I'm saying? People, if you believe something, then you believe it. If you don't believe something, you don't believe it. You have a choice not to believe or to believe what's presented. That's not even the point. Because a lot of Moors do the same thing. They put information out there that ain't even real. So, like, you so frustrated and all this shit is going on in your head. It ain't even going on in the outside world. This is going on in your head. You know what I'm saying? And you just need to get out of your head, and just to make happen what happened. I talk to people, they don't even have a way of getting food in their table, and they studying something out of a Christian book called the Black Laws Dictionary. If you're gonna do that, then just become a lawyer. You know what I'm saying? Stop all that stupid stuff. Like discussing, it's just a waste of time. You know what I'm saying? The real thing is the law of survival is the highest law. And working towards your people's survival is a good work. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't come with all the grunts and groans of all this hate and all that kind of stuff. That's why I tell you to turn hate into love. Love not to love and not to hate. And the reason for that is because hate is emotion that's associated with the netherworld. And anything associated with the netherworld really doesn't grow. That was even an old adage in the Babylonian myths, and just different myths. It doesn't grow because it's a yin force. It's drawing, it's pulling, right? And so nothing grows there. So the idea of oppression is not necessarily kill off all the people, but to keep them in a state that they can't grow, which is the underworld. So if you're walking around angry, first of all, you don't really have a way to express that to who would you want to express it to. So what winds up happening is that you become angry so much that you become a vessel of anger. Now, when you become a vessel of anger, the only thing you could do is express it to those who are around you. And that's the genocide process. So anyone who says, "Oh man, you just talking some crazy stuff or whatever," they don't even understand the process of what genocide does to people or how it even works. All they know is that this dude um, comes along and pushed us back in the community, and there are a lot of like resistance for people of melanated people to grow. There's resistance on certain levels. However, you got to be wise and not take the poison in of negative emotions, because then whatever you're doing, it won't succeed. And that's the situation today. All these people can come over here, and they can come over here in wayward conditions, and they'll be able to eventually get to a better place. You see what I'm saying? And we still, trying to figure out what's going on while we loving everything that's in the underworld and consider ourselves beings of light. Okay. That's a nice way to think of yourself as. But like I said, you keep looking at the pool at yourself, trying to, and what happened to Narcissus? He just stayed there. He began to deteriorate. He died. And that's how you die. You don't see that. All this stuff going on around you, and you just looking at yourself in the pool. You know what I'm saying? Posting stuff, pictures of people who look like you online, thinking that you're doing a good work, and you ain't even cultivating, the five principles. You're not even cultivating that. Then you get around these groups or whatever, call themselves Moorish, whether they're a temple or not, and they don't talk anything about the principles. They like one dude. I don't even want to go there, but you got some YouTubers and stuff who claim to represent the MSTA, and all they do is talk about other people. You know what I'm saying? And all this, they never give people a method of how to love and not to hate, how to cultivate those five principles. You never see that on the Morris team. You don't see it on Facebook, none of that. All you see is just a group of angry people. Yo, this thing is whack, B. You know what I'm saying? So, this is what we're going to do. We're going to contact me. We're going to make another type of Moorish movement that's above water, that's legal. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to deal with any half-ass stuff, because it's stupid. You know what I'm saying? Why deal with dumb people? You know what I'm saying? Deal with something of high intelligence. You know what I'm saying? Instead of all this talking and all this other crazy stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's stupid. We're going to create a shamanic rite. It's already out there. You know what I'm saying? We're just going to align it as, or announce it as as a more shamanic rite. And um, I've been initiating several systems, and there's one system I know that is a more system of shamanism, and that's how that's going to roll. It's just, you know, um, sometimes when I reflect on it, it's frustrating, because people are not aware, so it's a little difficult sometimes. But sometimes it's like, as you get older, you kind of see the foolishness behind certain things. You know what I'm saying? So, in general, the good thing about it is that most people who do follow the Moorish path, they're trying to do the best and the right things of life. You know what I'm saying? Some of them are a little bit misguided, and that cannot be determined just by what organization they're in. It's just the perception of things. You know what I'm saying? And just that you are in life. You know what I'm saying? You in life. You know what I'm saying? So you recognize that. And in Zulu, life is the supreme being because all things exist in life. You know what I'm saying? And so you live in life. And so you should be happy that you're a part of life. That's the first thing. And then from there, you want to move into a solid study of life, which is shamanism. And shamanism will open you up the gates to the higher than itself. You see what I'm saying? I'll be honest with you, man. I could have got caught up in some of them ruts. First, first thing that you embrace when you coming up as a little shorty, whatever, depending on how you was raised or whatever, you notice like, look, man, something ain't right here. You know what I mean? Something ain't right. You know what I mean? And so you look into some of the things that were already established to see if you could find the answer. Some people commit themselves to these things and they know some of it ain't right, but they're afraid to say no. And then some of it want to be, some people, you know what I mean, they want to be a part of, the buffoonery that, comes with, being on the block and all the other kind of crazy stuff, right? So after that, you kind of grow up a little bit. Then you start getting to some political arenas. Maybe you go into like, a little bit of artsy poetry or something like that, and then you start the government, this and that. And then you start realizing, like, wait a minute, there's something greater here, something spiritually not correct because the invisible influences the physical. But if you are afraid to move on, you will never see that. You see what I'm saying? And people get stuck. Some people get stuck in the questioning. Some people get stuck in the political resistance, right? And some people, they never make it to spiritual alchemy and what it means. Some people get stuck in the shamanic, right? Never can move past it. But, you know what I mean? That, so there's certain ways that some older folks know, you know what I'm saying, that can help people. And we just want to bring those ways to awareness, you know what I'm saying? And that's all it is, you know what I mean? But I'll be talking with y'all very soon. You'll see me a lot more. And I just want to say peace and blessings. This is Misal Bay, aka Warlock Asylum. Wafube.